Today I want to talk about Microsoft acquiring GitHub. I think it's the most interesting story to me today, anyways. And I think that some people may have just thought it's no big deal, but it is highly related to crypto, in my opinion. I think it's related to crypto in a lot of ways that people are missing, actually. And so I want to run through some of those scenarios. So, the thing with open source is that everybody at first said, well, how are you going to make money off of open source, right? That was the argument that everybody had before. And it was kind of hard to answer the question, but then you had Linux and you had all this stuff. And then people thought, well, how can you make money off of giving software away for free? Well, it's kind of a ridiculous question now because all Fortune 500 companies run on Linux, and anybody who knows anything about Linux can make money now. So that argument is kind of gone and over with. But contributing to open source projects used to not be as profitable as it is now that we have cryptocurrencies. It's one of those really it's easy to miss this detail that if you worked on a project for open source, you may not make any money. Actually, you might do it just for the fun of it. But now, if you contribute to a GitHub project or a open source repo for cryptocurrencies, you can make a shit ton of money. These guys are making millions of dollars now. So the the demand of these kind of developers is also going up too. So all of these open source nerds that everybody thought were kind of stupid for contributing to these projects are now all driving Lambos and totally rich. Well, maybe not all of them, but a lot more than were before. And so this kind of leads us into Microsoft and why they may have acquired a company like GitHub. If you really look at Microsoft, they've been trying to rebrand. Let's just be real. Developers think that Microsoft sucks. There's not really that many core developers or hardcore developers. And I'm sure there's a few here and there, but most of them think Microsoft sucks. And me being a developer myself, I think that Microsoft, it's kind of a cool story from a business point of view, and it's kind of smart, and the story of Bill Gates, whatever, it's nice, but they didn't really build the most developer friendly thing in the world. And trying to hop into a console on Microsoft, it's just forget about it. Like, you're either Linux or Mac or some Unix based system. And so Microsoft has grown this really bad reputation for how they treat developers. If you're a really serious developer, you don't go to a hacker convention and talk about the latest version of Microsoft Windows. It's like you would get booted out of a place like that pretty fast if that was what your deal was. So I kind of came up with this, reason why Microsoft really wants to acquire it, and I think it is highly related to crypto. Microsoft has been pretty desperate to actually figure out where it stands in the crypto world, and they're making a lot of desperate moves. Like purchasing GitHub actually allows them all this access to developers, developer trends, what's hot. And if you really think about it, the next $1 billion businesses are probably going to come from things that people are building on GitHub. I mean, it's already pretty much true. Look at EOS, right? EOS has been built on GitHub. That's where everybody who collaborates and the guys that are building these tools of the future, they're all building on GitHub. And just a little backstory about GitHub is that GitHub is actually the best tool for Git related projects. And a lot of people, they see Git and GitHub as synonymous. I mean, it has the same name, but you don't have to run Git on GitHub. Actually, it's just, and most people want to use it. You'll find every once in a while, you'll find some crypto hacker. I don't really like it, but most devs really love to use GitHub. And something that you might not know as a developer is that GitHub is so fucking awesome. Like their whole team is amazing. When you use GitHub, you feel like they're just rolling out the red carpet for you everywhere. You can merge your commits, and you can do so many things, and it just delights the user. Like, you as a user of GitHub, you're so happy, because if you ever use Subversion or even Git like straight up naked or Git from the console, it's not that fun. I mean, let's just be straight up. And when you're on GitHub, it feels social. Like you have all of your bros and sisters there to support you. You can comment on stuff. You can go line by line in analysis. It is one of the most delightful tools that you've ever used as a developer. And there is this kind of culture in GitHub that is really about developers and core developers, like hardcore dudes that are coding every day love to use GitHub. And so that's a major accomplishment that they achieved. And so fast forward and come in with Microsoft, and Microsoft has acquired GitHub now for $2 billion, and a lot of these developers are not happy. And I made up this sort of fucked up analogy, so please don't take offense to it. I don't mean to bring in any kind of race or anything like that, but it just popped in my head earlier. It's sort of like if you're working at GitHub, it's kind of like you working at the ACLU and you come in one morning and you realize that the KKK acquired your company. I mean, for some people, it's literally that bad. It's almost political in a way where all of these people, like some of these people probably feel like the Hillary campaign headquarters, all ready to cheer. And then they realize Trump is the president. I mean, it's probably this bad for some of the people at GitHub. They cannot believe that they got acquired by Microsoft because it goes against so many things in their ethos. And so I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, but I might not be able to uphold my promises there. But a lot of these developers are leaving, and so let's talk a little bit about what that actually means. There's legitimately some buzz going on online about how they are saying they want to leave. So I read an article earlier today about this because I was like, all these developers are going to leave, and it'll lead into how this could lead to decentralization, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But so it says that the announcement has led to multiple calls to remove Bitcoin activity from the code repository, which is really interesting because there is some substance behind it where you have Microsoft is a company that sells proprietary software, and it's not that there isn't proprietary software on GitHub, but the sort of idea behind GitHub is, and they very much support this, is all about open source software. And I know that Microsoft, they're really trying to rebrand themselves, and they might eventually succeed. So in a way, it is smart to start garnering the support of core devs because they know it's hurting their product. I mean, look at the past. They released their phone. They were offering $200K to every developer who even wanted to switch over their APKs from Android onto the Windows mobile system. And they tried that shit for a long time, and that didn't work. And they were desperate. I remember one year at South by Southwest, right around the time before the Windows phone died, they were so desperate. You could walk in and you could have very, very little experience with development, and they would pay you at least upwards of $100,000 or more to build an app on Windows. And that's a pretty good cost, actually. And so they've had a lot of trouble, and that trouble comes with the cost of not being able to get developers to give a fuck about what they're doing. And so, I think that this ties in a lot of their history. They had their XP was developed overseas. Microsoft has been more about the bottom line, more so than the developer community, in my opinion. And this has hurt them. And so I think that their new CEO is actually pretty smart. Like, this move to buy GitHub is going to bring more developers under the fold. And I know that they've had a lot of initiatives about Linux as well. And they're really trying to change their the perception in the eyes of the developers, which is super smart in my opinion, but it's not going to go without controversy. So back into this article about the developers leaving from GitHub because of Microsoft, it says GitHub had previously stated it would strive to remain independent, even planning an IPO in 2017. And GitHub's been selling this mission to their developers and all the people who help build their community, that we're a core dev company and we support open source, and we're very much kind of this rogue company that doesn't bow down to the corporation. And now all of a sudden, the largest corporation ever in history that minted the most rich people in the nation, and has all of these controversial agreements with governments like China, has now acquired them. So this is pretty bad in a way. And it says the company's CEO and founder, Chris Wansrath, resigned in August, with executives struggling to find a suitable replacement since, Business Insider reported. Bitcoin development has traditionally used the website as a global participation environment. Unsurprisingly, news of a corporate takeover failed to impress community figures who demanded Bitcoin activity be taken elsewhere. Yes, Bitcoin developer Vladimir J. Van blah 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 wrote on Twitter when asked whether developers should abandon GitHub permanently. So guys like, yeah, of course they should abandon it. They say, no real hurry, but I expect this is the beginning of a long, painful road of GitHub towards obsolescence, possibly ending the same way as Codeplex did, he explained. To be clear, Bitcoin Core contributors already preferred moving to an independently hosted infrastructure in the long run. This may or may not speed it up. So you already have these Bitcoin developers, and I want to focus on the Bitcoin developers and how many projects there are. I mean, every ICO, and there are literally thousands of them. The entire market cap of all of cryptocurrencies houses their code and the core technology that drives these tokens on GitHub. Most of it is on GitHub. I would say 99% even is on GitHub. So this is a really big deal for cryptocurrencies. And these are the most money-making projects that are on GitHub right now. Let's just be real about it. So then it talks about their rival. Others continued the narrative that Microsoft would stunt the project's potential. Trust me, some other repo is code hosting service is gonna capitalize the fuck off of this. Definitely, they're gonna capitalize. They're gonna take this Microsoft runs GitHub to the bank with core developers for 5 years and be able to build a really solid funnel of users with that alone. So they say there is no GitHub replacement. We all know Microsoft will run it into the ground. One Twitter comment reads, in response to criticism of the potential bill Microsoft paid for the ownership. And then there's some funny things that Whale Panda said in Twitter that I thought was worth mentioning, which is you could have acquired GitHub too. All you had to do is create a $2 billion ICO. So that's kind of cool though. I mean, that's pretty funny and smart in my opinion. You know, you could have started an ICO, raised about $2 billion, which is definitely not easy. I mean, even Telegram couldn't do that. But in theory, you could have raised an ICO and then bought GitHub, and maybe we should have. In the future, Bitcoin development could move to rival independent service GitLab, a trending hashtag, move to GitLab, already doing the rounds online. So it looks like the only alternative to going corporate with Microsoft is going to GitLab. And I don't really blame these developers, but in my opinion, I wouldn't move my project off of GitHub only because GitHub is so sweet. I mean, even if the service just stays as it is, my guess is it'll still be an industry leader for 5 years. The amount of work and the amount of care, GitHub is like it's a fucking Mona Lisa of cloud repositories. I mean, like any other service I've used just cannot compare to it in any way. So in that way, it's kind of smart because there's a high barrier to entry. Like nobody can fuck with GitHub right now. There's just no way. Continue with the article. It says on Sunday, 2 days after the Microsoft rumors began circulating, the company reported 10 times the usual number of projects migrating amid efforts to keep up with demand. So they said, we're scaling our fleet to try to stay up. Officials announced reproducing data confirmed the giant spike in migration from GitHub. So it looks like a lot of people are moving off of GitHub to other services. And I feel like these developers are going to suffer a little bit more than they want to. And my guess is a lot of these developers have better things to worry about, like their $50 million they just raised on their ICO, and probably don't want to migrate off to some other shitty service, because trust me, all of them are kind of shitty. After you use GitHub, it's like trying to move off of Facebook to another social network. I mean, they're selling our data and doing all these other things that people think is shady, but at the end of the day, I think that even with Facebook's data problems that they've had recently, I've heard that Facebook actually has gone up in usage since then. So my guess is it's going to be similar with GitHub, but developers are pretty stubborn. So I wouldn't be surprised if 5 to 10% of the core devs leave and then maybe come crawling back later after they're tired of using I mean, nothing against GitLab. I think that, this is a good way to segue into this other idea that I have, is that eventually somebody's going to build a decentralized version of one of these products that could rival. And I think that this community is perfect to do it. A lot of these guys, you already have a perfect funnel to build and a perfect selling point. Like, look at how these people are selling Facebook or selling their privacy company based on how Facebook has bad privacy rules, and they use your data in all these ways that are shady, and they're able to gain users from that. I think that, whatever the GitHub competitor is, they're going to have a good selling point to say, look, GitHub is run by Microsoft, so you need to migrate over here. But you have to build a great product too, and that's not easy to do. And GitHub has truly put in a lot of love and care into that product. Just the subtleties of how amazing this product works is going to be truly hard to beat. So my guess is, a lot of these developers have better things to worry about than moving off of a really sweet service, But a couple of other points, and I'll leave a comment down. They just confirmed that it was 7.5 billion, which is pretty interesting. But given the track record of another thing I wanted to mention was the track record of Microsoft and why this could actually be pretty bad just as a business, because Microsoft has acquired, Skype and Nokia and all these other projects that have totally just, it left a bloody trail behind them. So, but I kind of like this new CEO of Microsoft. That might make me kind of unpopular, but he seems really developer focused, and that seems like his mission is to bring developers back into the fold. And I feel like that is the right decision for Microsoft, given that they sell software and, it's a different world. People talk to each other more. Microsoft didn't even believe in the internet when they first started, from the quotes from Bill Gates that he wasn't really that bullish on the internet. And I feel like they have to evolve with the internet market of people and developers that talk to each other, and they don't really like what Microsoft does. They don't like their products. They don't like that they can't hop in a console. A lot of the tools they want to use don't work there, and they have to fix this relationship. So I believe that this is a really good move for them. And overall, I'm kind of excited. In a way, it's sort of like validation for all of these developers who work their ass off for decades writing open source software, that now this major corporation wants to acquire them. And also, I think it's overall good for the crypto community. Now you have a major corporation that is going to have a vested interest in making sure that all of their customers, which are a lot of crypto hackers, it's going to align Microsoft, in my opinion, with the goals of blockchain and crypto. And that is good for the crypto community, as much as people wouldn't want to admit that. But that's all I got for today. So thanks for listening.